this tremendous theme of God first, and I am not going to try to teach the Sunday school lesson. Main reason is I don't know what it is for today. I'm not very good about talking about something I don't know anything about. I've seen preachers like that, but I've never been able to do that. But in this God first thing, which it's hard to get across in a week, it is so basic. God spoke in the basics, and if we get him first in our lives, we have a whole internal awakening. You know, the reason our Sunday schools across the country have remained the same and in some cases dipped is because just simply we lost our care. We just lost our care. But you get to where you can see God. You know, I looked out the window of our the embassy this morning, and I saw a great tall tree. Way up at the top of it there was a leaf, and I said, that's something they can't explain, how that sap started from down there in the ground and crawled all the way up that tree without going against the law of gravity and found its way there clear up to the top. And you need to learn to see God and see where he is. You realize out here in Illinois, where you have these tremendous cornfields, that in every one of those cornfields an unexplained thing, maybe it's a miracle, is going on. The world, you know, God made it, and it has vestiges of the wonderful. When he said to man that you'll earn your living by the sweat of your brow, and the world will bring forth thorns and thistles, did you ever stop to think you don't have to plant thistles? They just come. You have to fight them like crazy. But if you're going to grow crops, you have to work like crazy to plant them and to cultivate them and to fight the weeds. God said, the world is telling us every day that it's just like God says it was going to be. And you take that cornfield out there, take 80 acres of corn, and it grows tall and big, and it makes what, 150 bushels to the acre? You get that here, don't you, sometimes? Maybe more than that, I don't know. 200, we'll say 200 bushels to the acre. 80 acres times 200 bushels to the acre, however much that is. Fingers are a little inadequate for figuring that up, but when you harvest that corn, and if you were to take it out and pile it out on the side, you'd have a tremendous pile out there, wouldn't you? And then if you went in the fall of the year and cut all the fodder and piled it out on the other side, you'd have another tremendous pile out there. All that mass coming out of that field, it looks like that the field would sink about 6 or 7 inches, doesn't it? Because that mass was all down in there, and now it's all out, and according to every law of physics, after about 50 years, you'd need a step ladder or a big ladder to get down to the field. But at the end of 50 years, it's still there, just as high as it was 50 years ago, and harvesting all that mass every year. Wish the smart guys would tell us how that happens. But you got to get God in some of those things to be able to know why. And so every year there's a miracle that land after 100 years is still there, just as high as it was, and gave off enough mass during that 100 years to pile up a 10-story building. But it never got any lower. It just stays there. So every time you pass a cornfield, you say to yourself, there's a miracle going on. And you get to where in God first that you get to see in his hand around you, and that brings him close, and life takes on a new meaning, and you have a new appreciation. That's part of the zest of living, to be able to find out what God does. Get get a sheet of paper or a little piece of paper, and I want to talk to you briefly this morning on the 4 great decisions of life. I give it to you because you have to make decisions. The 4 great decisions of life. Now, some of you have made those decisions, but everybody has to make them. And I want to say immediately that the trouble of the world is that they try to make the decisions without taking in the principles that God says goes with them. The 4 great decisions of life that everyone has to make, that settles human destiny, that the Bible speaks to, that Christ came to help us with. That as you read the Bible with those 4 decisions, great decisions in your mind, you'll say there, it's speaking to that. And though some of you are older and have grandchildren, tell them these decisions. The world's not telling them. The world's forgotten that they are important. It is almost unbelievable at the jumble of falseness that is paraded as basic knowledge to detour a human being from the main line into the tragedies. You know, when he said, be not conformed to this world, that's a boon. By the renewing of your mind, prove God's will. That's life. Those things stretch all the way across life. You find him in the beauty. You got your pencils out, haven't you, saying, when's that nut going to get down to what he says he's going to say? The first decision, and one you have to make, and that is how much knowledge, education, know-how do you want? You decide that. You realize that you are the keeper of your own mind, that nobody can put anything in there unless you put it there. And education is important, and it is essential. The liberal arts of our colleges teach people how to appreciate the fabric of life and the meaning of the various things that otherwise would escape you. But knowledge that goes on across the years, and the offerings of today on television and radio carry nothing in the way of increasing your mental ability to take the issues of life and translate them into good living. The first great decision. You can be a dummy if you want to. We can't keep you from being that. You can be intelligent if you want to. And yet the attitude in a nation whose morals have slipped is the attitude of trying to get something you really don't deserve by a shortcut or falsity or thievery, and it won't come that way. Decision number 1. What did I say it was? Knowledge. Thank you. I knew, but I see. Remember that. Number 2, how in this world you are going to make a living, so it's profession. Knowledge, profession. What shall I do to earn bread and butter for me and those for whom I assume responsibility? And one of the things which disturbs me today is the fact that so many are drifting. This is a drifting day, that have no decision made as to what they want to do, and therefore no incentive to prepare to do it. So while you talk to your young people and your children or grandchildren try to be able to turn their mind to thinking about the big decision of what they're going to do along the trail of life that runs from now until the end. Profession. What am I going to do? And that is extremely important, for some of them deteriorate from your personality. Have you watched the downfall of the legal profession until an attorney will take a hardened criminal, a rapist or a murderer, and with some respect gain satisfaction out of his ability to get him away and free, because the moral fabric of society has collapsed, and without it a nation dies. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to give you this morning things to see that you become aware of, that you, if you're not careful, you become a zombie walking along the trail in the night. A profession. We had some friends who we were talking to. We hadn't seen them for quite a while, and I asked them about their daughter, Susan. She wasn't with them then, and I saw a little shadow on the face of the couple, and they said Susan is in Hollywood. She is studying to be an actress. And I knew there was disappointment there, but as we talked, I said, would you give me Susan's address? I knew her as a beautiful teenager, and I would like to write her. And I said, I'll make it clear that I asked for her address and got it, and write her on my own, so that I knew if there was any feeling there, that she wouldn't be able to resent her parents. Dear Susan, we saw your folks the other day, had a nice visit with them. Of course, we missed you, and I asked about you, and they gave me your address. I said I asked your parents what you were doing, and they said you were studying to be an actress. And it is because of this that I am writing you. I'm writing you, Susan, to say to you that in the present state of the art, I said I realize that acting to portray great character and great truths can be beneficial, but in the present state of the art of lasciviousness and sex and violence, you can't really live. You can only die. What you do either contributes to you or takes from you. And I said, you, as I remember, were a beautiful young lady. And I just have felt bad that you have chosen a profession that today, by and large, contributes to the lower level of morals and thinking in the society in which we live. I went on to say to her, you know, there are some professions that are great. I said a bartender can't live. He's only dying. I said, now, you take a surgeon. A surgeon could look outside the window of his office and see a man walk by and say to himself, that man is alive today because of the skill that I struggled hard to get and operated on him in the time of his great need, and his family has him. I said, that's living life that contributes. And I said, it's my hope that you'll receive this letter from an old friend and realize that you have only one trip through the years. And I'd like to see you have something by which you could really live. And all living, real living, is being able to contribute to the welfare and the betterment of your fellow man. We are our brother's keeper. That's two. The third one is your choice of a life's companion. The four great decisions that the psychologists, the educators, all tell us that every man has to make. Your choice of a life's companion. Oh, most of us have made that choice, but while it is made in a short space of time, it continues across all the rest of the years. The Bible speaks to that. Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. One of the great forces, the greatest force in the world, is the force that lies latent in religion and marriage. You know, it was Dr. Petirin Sorokin who was head of the chair of sociology of Harvard University for many years. He was not I do not even know whether he believed in God, but I read some of his sociological books, which were tremendous, and he had keen insight, and he said one of the greatest tragic detriment to life in America is Hollywood and its productions. Now, that wasn't just a holiness preacher. That was a psychologist. He said they parade violence and lust and lawlessness. And he said Hollywood and its productions will, if unchecked, destroy America. Sorokin is gone now, and since his day, it has grown worse. Let me give you a little axiom, not one of these decisions, but why don't you write this down? I'll give it to you slowly. No Christian, write that. No Christian can willfully, knowingly support and promote expressed evil. No Christian can willfully and knowingly support and promote expressed evil. Would you buy that? Is that make sense? I believe it does. Hollywood promotes evil. And if you say, I'll pick one of their good ones, and you go and lay your money down, you're supporting the whole rotten mess. You cannot break the basics and make it. I do not want any support of expressed evil on my record when I face him. No Christian can willfully promote, support expressed evil. One fellow came to me and said, and when I have said that, you'd be surprised. It rankles people, and they'll come to me. One guy says, what if you live in a town and there's two stores in town, and one store sells liquor and tobacco and the other one doesn't? Where would you shop? I said, the one that doesn't. But what if the prices are higher? The one that doesn't. My religion's not set on the market commodities of my day. Amen. Sly look came in his eye, and he said, what if they both sell that? Then I said, I buy groceries. I said, I'm not going to lay down on the sidewalk and die out there. I'm going to buy groceries. I don't have a choice, so I'll buy my groceries. I said, I ride in airplanes and they serve liquor. I don't jump out when they do it. I ride them till they land. No Christian can knowingly, What is expressed evil? It is evil so defined and conjoined and joined and marketable to where man can promote it, seek his pleasures in its slums, and by doing so makes it last. Or you hear on television once in a while, and Mrs. Lewis and I have a television. We try to pick out the news. We're the poorest television watchers. I do not believe that I can watch that without smearing my soul. We need our lines drawn sharp. And one weekend, one movie grossed, what was it, $52 million, feeding the hungry maw of the masses who have nothing better to do. Your life's companion, Sirockin said, one of the great tragedies of our day is the absolute abolishment of moral and spiritual content to life's motives and life's impulses. By that he was simply saying that when they are able to sow the idea in the mind, for example, the word love, the highest emotion known to the human race, has been put down to biological lust. And a lot of art now does that, a lot of music. I think of a song. I'm not going to sing it. Don't rush for the doors. But you remember that old song, the birds and the bees, the flowers and the trees, a he and a she, and you got love. You don't have love with a he and a she. You might have. But they take that word love and muck it around till in the minds of the younger generation, biological lust is the basis for marriage. And as a result of it, the millions fail. 4 great decisions. The last one. Have you got the 3? What was the first one?
Knowledge.
The second one? Profession, livelihood. The third one? Life's companion. The last one is your religion. The big one, what you believe. Salvation. The choice. Man has to make that choice, for Christ walked through time, and when he did, they either take him or leave him. And he said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Everybody has to make those decisions. May you make them well. And thanks for listening. They told me to shut up at 10:15. It is 10:15. I am shutting up.
We have a 15-minute break here before the service. So stand up, be very, very friendly, and be back in here at 10:30, praying, anticipating, expecting God to do a marvelous thing in our midst. Thank you.